Let's look at verses 1 through 4 when Paul talks about due benefits. When you consider the words due benefit from a masculine mindset, and then you blend it with the image of the roles from my umbrella overlay, it makes it impossible to not think that the due benefit that Paul's talking about is just sex. And yes, he is talking about sex, yet at the same time, not just sex. Men and women both want sex, but estrogen arrives at the desire in the opposite way of testosterone. Men do good to feel good, and women feel good to do good. That means in relationship, masculinity is the doer and provider, so that femininity can be the receiver and the responder. No one would argue that men aren't visually stimulated, that it happens primarily in the cognitive region. They feel it in their groin, but it starts in their minds. The desire for sex goes from the mind to the groin and then finishes in the heart with the emotional experience happening after sex. Box 1, the mind. Box 2, the groin. Box 3, the heart. Men only think in boxes. Their process is always compartmentalized. For women, it's the opposite. We must feel an emotional attachment from the connection of cleaving before we desire sex physically. With masculinity having 90% testosterone and femininity being 90% estrogen, just that one biological fact proves that due benefits are fundamentally different between men and women. And that's why when Paul begins talking about due benevolence, he addresses the husband first. You must give the feminine creature what benefits her first. And then this is where it gets lost. The masculine mindset interprets due benefit for a wife as foreplay. It's not, because foreplay is part of sex. Think about it like this. For a man, due benevolence is like preparing the soil for planting. Foreplay is the tilling, watering, and fertilizing that leads to the harvest of intimacy. But for a woman, due benevolence is more like tending to the garden. It's not just about the planting, it's about the nurturing of the entire landscape. Friendship, connection, and attachment, so that the garden thrives as a whole. So, what's the benefit that's due to femininity? In short, it's everything except sex. The obligation that's due to a wife from the husband first is the benefit from the friendship and connection. You know what that is, right? That's cleaving. If your husband is a masculine male that's of quality, then he'll be cleaving to you on a regular basis. He'll be pursuing you and relationship with you. And that means you will be receiving your due benefits. If a man does this, he creates an incredibly powerful polarity. A husband who consistently pursues, engages with, and cherishes his wife, he's fostering a compelling and an almost irresistible desire within her. By intentionally loving her as Christ loves the church, he'll naturally draw her to want to be intimately connected with him. She'll respond to that consistent pursuit with the act of receiving any sexual advance. But femininity's got to experience his cleaving into her heart before she'll want to accept his body entering into her body. That's our pre-wiring from God for our safety, and it works unless you're unhealed. When we're unhealed, we fall for breadcrumbs instead of cleaving. I'm not going into breadcrumbs in this video, but suffice to say they're bad. I'll put a link in the description box if you want to do a deep dive into the difference between breadcrumbing and cleaving. So this is what God means in verse 4 when he says that a wife doesn't have power over her own body. She really doesn't, because when she's being cleaved to, she's basically putty in her husband's hands. Here's the difference between the two perspectives. Misogyny implies that I have control over your body because I am in the superior position. The husband sits above the wife, who's in the inferior position. With this perspective, you are powerless because the power is removed through the structure of the hierarchy. You don't have the power to say no because you have to submit. The structure of the hierarchy is being used as a tool to coercively control the body of the wife. Toxic masculinity leans hard into the visible roles in the hierarchical structure while ignoring the invisible one-flesh relationship. But healthy masculinity implies I don't need the authority in the structure of the roles because I have the masculine power to draw you to me through love. It's the same pattern in Ephesians 5:33. God knows how he created his daughters. He tells his sons, if you love your wife, she'll naturally respond with respect towards you. The power that a husband has is that it's his quality that determines the kind of sex life they have, because he's the one who determines her level of desire. 1 Corinthians 7 is ultimately telling us that it's the environment that creates the atmosphere for sex, and it's the husband's responsibility to intentionally create it. And that's why God says that the due benevolence for the wife is first. Misogyny thinks every aspect of marriage is packed into that hierarchical structure, including the woman and her femininity. But healthy masculinity, he knows that this feminine creature isn't sitting beneath him. He knows that she's positionally in front of him, facing him straight on, waiting, hoping to be drawn to him.